Liv, welcome to the pod.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I was just saying to you earlier, I feel like I know you, girl. I've been a bit of a stalker on your Insta for some time now and absolutely love all the content that you put out. So thank you for resonating with so many of us.
Oh, thank you so much. That's awesome.
So, to those listening, I have Olivia White here from House of White. She's a social media personality, a content creator, a self proclaimed fun mum, travel addict, and passionate public speaker. And today we are talking all things the tween years because you have two beautiful daughters, Liv. Tell us how old they are.
Yeah, so Teddy is 7 and Annabelle is 9, turning 10 in just a few weeks.
Okay, and are they growing up so much faster than we ever did?
Oh, you know what? It's so crazy because I know we've just had like so much happen since our childhood, the internet, social media, but it really does, and nothing can really prepare you for it. And just, yeah, I feel like definitely they are growing up so much quicker.
Because they're exposed to so much more than we ever were. I mean, what did we had? We had like the Channel 9 news and Home and Away. Like like well,
Absolutely. Like the world is so much more connected now. And I think
Yeah.
it's both a positive, but sometimes a negative. But also I just think even I think about when I was younger and, mum would send me out until the street lights come on and we'd play with the kids in the street and we'd ride around. Kids just don't really do that anymore. And I think maybe that influx of information that we got has made us maybe a bit more cautious or like maybe afraid of the world a little bit in how I parent. I think also kind of impacts that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it definitely changes how kids are growing up these days.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I want to actually start with the puberty box. So,
Yeah.
you gosh, here I'm stumbling on my words already. You gave your 9-year-old daughter a puberty box. Talk us
Yes.
through what was in it. Why the hell did you do that? I think it's brilliant, but I want to hear, yeah, how did that all come about?
Yeah. So look, there were definitely a lot of signs there that she was, entering into puberty, whether that be, hair or body odor and just all of those general things. And I, being a woman and being a mother, I thought, oh, of course I'll be ready for this stage. But I was just feeling completely unprepared and, kind of questioning, okay, like how can I support her through this and what can I do? And so actually, it was another mum who'd gone through something similar. Her girls are a little bit older than mine. She put some stuff together when her daughter did get her period. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff together so that it's there, so that we're being proactive rather than reactive. We can talk about what the items are. We can talk about, whether she wants to use them or not, because that is her choice. And I'm really, really glad that I did because, we kind of got to that need for them a lot sooner than I would have thought. It's very, very young, but unfortunately, we have no choice. She's going through these things, and yeah, I put some resources in there, some books. I know there's been a lot of controversy around Yumi Stein's and Melissa King's books, but I think they are fabulous, fantastic, because at the end of the day, we don't get to pick and choose when we want to do this with our kids because biology is going to make that decision for us. So, and it is getting younger and younger, I believe. Talking to our family GP, Annabelle is on the younger side, but they're seeing it more and more. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, I was supporting her as best as I possibly could. And I'm really glad that I did. I think it really helped her and I think it really helped us. So, yeah.
What are some of the key items that you put in the box?
Yeah, so I put like speaking about periods, I put all different forms in there, whether she was going to use them or not. I just wanted her to kind of know what they were, understand how they worked, make decisions for herself, what she thought was best for her. So we had pads, we had tampons, we had period undies, which I think any parent of daughters out there, like it's just so amazing. We have all of these new options that make life easier. She's a swimmer, so I got her period swimmers. I even got a cup just so that I could show her as she gets older what her options are available to her to help manage it. I also got, like I said, the book resources. I got her a razor if she wanted to use that. Totally up to her. Not trying to force her to make any decisions of what she wants to do.
Yeah.
Some deodorant, and then just some other, I guess, more like comfort goodies that, we all, like a heat pack, some chocolate, a lot of people said to me when I shared it, oh, like, don't forget Nurofen. Obviously, we have that, but she is only 9.5, and that's something that I still feel that we need to help regulate the distribution of.
Yeah.
But of course, it's available to her and stuff like that. So, and just some little crop tops and all these things to open up the conversations.
How was it received initially by her?
It was cute. I sort of sat her down and I said, I've made this for you. And thankfully in schools, I think they talk about these things much more openly and a lot earlier. So it wasn't all a huge shock to her. And she was sort of just like, thank you. And we went through the items and, a few giggles and because, it's, but as time has gone on, I have noticed her reading the books. I have she will ask me questions and she's so young still, like, sometimes I do think it's so unfair, like, to have to go through this stuff so young because they don't understand so much. But she's been really good and she, we've been managing it really well together, I think. And by doing that and giving that to her, I think it really opened up her comfort and confidence in talking to me about stuff too. So that was the main thing, and I'm really grateful for that.
What were the books? Again, just a bit of context for our listeners.
Yeah, so the first one I got her, which was actually before I made the book, was Kaz Cook. She has a tween 8 to 12 book. Highly recommend. The other were the trio of, so it's Yumi Steins and Melissa King. They have one dedicated to period, one dedicated to consent, which I think is fantastic, and boobs. And then, of course, they've recently released their sex version, which I do have, and I will give that to her when I feel it's appropriate. But both authors and the books that they have written for tweens, I have found really well received by her.
I think it's amazing. There's so much to you as a parent as well, that you would sort of take the time to prioritise, okay, my child's going through this phase of their life, or at least this phase is coming up. How can I best support her? I think that's just amazing. And it's great that you're able to share that too, because it enables so many other parents out there to go, okay, these are things I can be thinking about. I'm curious, looking at your girls growing up in this day and age, so as I said, so different to what we experienced. How are you finding them? Because I know, for example, when I was a teenager, if I missed a party or if I missed something fun, like, I already felt bad in myself that I wasn't able to attend, let alone seeing all these photos on bloody Instagram and all that of the party. And so I can be extra jealous of all the shit that I'm missing out on. So I'm just curious, like, how do you navigate that with your girls? It's not an easy world, right?
Not at all. And like, I'm in my mid-30s and I still am navigating it all. I'm obviously in a unique position because my job is online and I actually, make a living and an income from it. So perhaps, for me, it is a little bit different because my kids have grown up around it. They're so aware of it, and because they see, mum doing it for a job. My kids love watching YouTube Kids. They love watching shorts and stuff like that. But they're not quite at the age yet, like, apart from saying, oh, I want to run a YouTube channel and do toy reviews. They're not asking for Instagram. They're not asking for TikTok. And, perhaps because it's almost like one of those things where they just like see it every day that they're like, or maybe they're just not quite at the age yet. I do know that they have friends that do have accounts and perhaps use it a bit more and stuff, but not quite yet. But definitely it is always on my mind. It's always on the forefront of my mind, and that's why in what I do and them constantly seeing me online and how I manage it and how I handle both positive and negative feedback from people, I try and think of that as, okay, how would I want my girls to handle this, or how would I want them to see this, or how would I want them to kind of process this information about, what someone might be saying about them online, or all of that stuff. And then also for me, there is, the ever evolving question of my children having an online presence and, around how much I share or what I share, or, asking permission. And it's such a huge thing. I think we all think about, regardless of whether we're sharing our kids professionally or just a photo of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that when the time comes, I mean, have you thought about perhaps how you'd want to set boundaries for the way in which they're using social media? Like, would you be mindful of who they were following? Or, I mean, I guess how the hell do you even police that really? But I don't know. I'm curious from yourself or maybe friends of yours who have older children. Any
Yeah.
ideas on boundaries?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And again, that is something that, I've had to start thinking about. We already have certain times that we use screens. We don't use screens, alone in the bedroom, and they do use Messenger Kids, which I do think is a great form of communication at this age, because you do get reports as a parent, you are aware of who they're talking to. So I think that's really good. But then, of course, once you get into, I guess, other apps like Instagram and TikTok, it's really hard because, anyone can follow. You don't even have to have an account. Like TikTok doesn't require someone to have an account, to comment. And it's a scary thing. But also the reality is that this is our life. This is the world. We cannot, I think they would be at a disadvantage, right, to try and block them and bar them from using these things.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that they have healthy boundaries themselves, that they know what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate, that they have the confidence to come to us or other trusted adults if they weren't feeling comfortable, or they were, feeling any kind of like negative emotions because of, their usage on social media. So for us, it's just, I guess, about trying to communicate that with them as best we can and help them, sort of establish good, healthy boundaries when it comes to social media. Because I know for us, like I'm a millennial, it kind of got thrust on us like in our teens, like at a very similar age. And it just moved along so quickly at such a rapid pace. And like we didn't know, we were like constantly learning. And it was like this, at times, I think it can be so overwhelming to feel like, I'm connected to the entire world, therefore I owe these people something, or whatever it might be. And just kind of learning from our own experience with it.
Right. It's going to be such a beast. I mean, I've got a nearly 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. Oh no, 3-year-old.
Yeah.
God, can't keep up. And I can only imagine. I mean, Instagram might not even be a thing when they're in their tween.
We don't know what
you
the next thing's going to be.
We've got no
We don't know.
idea. So
don't
it's
know.
kind of just navigate what you can within, what is around at the moment. I'm curious as well, and particularly, I know that this is a big thing for girls, particularly, tween, the teenage years, the body image piece, right?
Yeah.
And you are such an advocate out there for, at least the way in which I perceive it is that you're like, own your body, have that self-esteem, your confidence, doesn't matter what you look like or and I think culturally, like just in general, society is very much changing. We're seeing so many more plus size models and, diverse models in general, which is fantastic. Have you sort of come across or thought about this whole body image piece and how perhaps the internet might play into that and how you can sort of support your kids through that?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, for me, especially like post having children and, going through so many body changes and just like so much, like I feel like, I think of the person I was, before I had kids, just after I had kids, and all through this journey, like there's so many different versions of myself. And I, have been very open about the fact that I have had, cosmetic surgery and, any, say, like cosmetic procedures that I have. I have shown my body at all different stages of, my journey. We as a household, like we're very open and fluid about all of that kind of stuff, and really try to sort of encourage them. But then, of course, when it comes to social media and we can't, we can't stop what they're seeing or how that's delivered to them. And, some people Photoshop things, or some people might give, unrealistic expectations, or all of these things, right? We can't change that. Like we can, over time as a society, try and encourage people to make change for the better. But these things are still going to be out there. There's still going to be these pockets of the internet, right? Or, things that are going to be put in front of our children. It's about, again, trying to instill in them an understanding of, you know, not everything, there is not this perfect ideal, or there is not, you know, good and bad, fat and skinny, this and that, like eat this, don't eat that, you know, make sure they have a healthy relationship with food, make sure that they have a positive relationship with their own body, that they're happy with themselves no matter how they look, or, you know, what it might be. You know, I think it is important that kids, you know, tweens, teens, understand that we have to look after our bodies and the ways in which we can do that, and we can support ourselves both mentally and physically, but also having the ability to look at something and identify, okay, that's nice, or that's pretty, or that's, you know, what that person likes, or what that's, you know, how they want to present themselves to the world, but it is not a reflection of me.
Are you having conversations at home yet about these sort of topics, or is it still not quite there? Yeah.
Definitely from the perspective of encouraging them to be active and having an understanding why it is good to move your body. You know, having a healthy relationship with food. You know, food is good. Food is fuel. You know, what perhaps, you know, we need more of and maybe a bit less of, everything in moderation. Definitely those conversations, and we've always had them. I think that they're fundamental. And then more, I guess, not so much around body image. I haven't had any sort of real specific incidents of like them expressing like a negative, you know, ideas about themselves, but, you know, allowing them, you know, body autonomy. You know, my eldest was like, I want to cut a bob and a fringe. I'm like, okay, you do that. Like that is your choice. Same with having conversations about, you know, okay, if you want to remove your body hair, you can, but you also don't have to. You know, just being supportive about these decisions that they're making for themselves, about their own identity, how they present themselves to the world. You know, my daughter chooses to wear the boys' uniform, like the pants for school. That is her personal preference. She's the only one in her class that does, but that is what she wants to do. And so, you know, you do you, and we fully support you in those decisions. So, but nothing too heavy yet around body image, which I feel good about, and, you know, hopefully we are giving them the right tools and sending the right messages.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You just never know.
Yeah. I mean, we can only sort of steer and communicate and shape as best we can, and then send them off into the world, and then just sort of, you know, hope that they've taken some of our nuggets of wisdom with them, right? Which, you know,
you know, and we're all still learning too. You know, it's
totally.
Because things were different when we were younger, and we want to do things differently, and, you know, we have so much more knowledge now around these things.
Yes.
And yeah, you know, we just gotta, as long as we're trying.
Yeah, totally. As long as your head's in sort of the right place. Curious as well, as you sort of mentioned about your daughter wanting to wear, for example, the boys' pants, for example, right? Have you come across situations with the girls? And again, I'm sort of preempting because this is like, what am I in for? But, you know, with, I don't know, girls being nasty, girls being judgy, other boys being judgy to your girls. Like, how have you sort of navigated that as a parent?
Yeah. Look, this has been one thing for me that I have been terrified about, you know, terrified about school and friendship circles, because I did not have the most positive experience in school, in primary school. I was actually quite similar. I hung out with the boys. I wasn't into wearing dresses. And, you know, kids were different back then, I think. And look, there's always going to be things no matter where you go. And one thing, thankfully, with my eldest, she has a very fantastic, supportive group of friends around her, and I am quite close with a lot of the parents, which I think is always, you know, beneficial. When situations have like arisen, our school is, one, really fantastic in dealing with them, and two, you know, you're always going to come across people in life, whether it be like other kids or even a teacher that you don't necessarily like or get along with, or they might not be your person, but we really try and sort of tell the girls that, like, this is going to happen in everyday life. You are going to come across
Yep.
people that you don't necessarily like, or that you perhaps feel is not your person, or they're not being kind, and we try and encourage them in those situations that if they can't sort of come to some kind of resolution, or can't sort of, I guess, resolve the situation, or they are feeling negative emotions, perhaps, go play with someone else, or it is totally fine to spend time by yourself. I think that's a really, really important one that we really try to foster with the kids, is that if you at any time feel like you're not enjoying the situation, or you're not enjoying the company of someone, it could even just be identifying that I've actually just drained my social battery, that you can remove yourself from that situation. And time alone is not a bad thing.
Yeah. I tell
Because
interesting you say that, because I had my first kind of minor situation with my 4.5-year-old, and the one thing he was trying to, I guess, get in with this little clique at school, and they were kind of like not buying it, and then he was like, okay, and then the teacher sort of made me aware of it, and all the other parents. So similarly, they moved really quickly to kind of alleviate any conflict in that situation. But I remember just saying to him, like, Noah, if you don't feel like, people are being nice to you, or you're not being nice to them or something, just go and have a little play by yourself. Like, that's good too.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be around, and so it's funny that you mentioned that, because even the 4-year-old, I'm like, and we've, it's good to have that as an option and present that to them. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right? It's actually a great thing to have a little bit of space and recalibrate.
I think so, and I think that's super important, especially moving forward.
Yeah.
When we get into conversations around, mental health and that kind of stuff. But the other thing for us too, and I've always, my kids do quite a few extracurricular activities, and we obviously travel a lot. And I think it's just really good for kids to know and understand that the world is bigger than just like the clique that they have at school, or the people that are in their class. And because I don't want them to ever feel like that is the be all and end all, and that these issues and problems that we're having, like, yes, they're totally valid, and our feelings are valid, but also, we have so much more outside of this. And, they have friends at their extracurricular activities, and, we go out, we travel the world, we see the world, we see how other people do things, and they know that, perhaps it gives them a bit better perspective. When they are dealing with these situations. And also, a big one for us is the kids understanding that everybody is different, and no two people are the same, and sometimes that means that they might not just might not be your person, or just because you're friends with one or two people in a group doesn't mean you have to consider the entire group like your close friends. Like, they're your acquaintances, or they're the people that you sometimes hang around, and whose opinions matter, and how we can better understand people, how we can show people kindness when they're not necessarily showing us kindness, and all different things. And yeah, like I said, I'm very, very fortunate that we do have a very proactive school when it comes to that type of stuff. So nothing too major yet, and I touch wood and fingers crossed, and I know we haven't even hit high school yet, so God bless.
No,
pray for me.
Right, well, it's a good situation, at least to date. You can kind of lean on like the experience that you've had. I'm curious as well, I mean, talking about judgy, like, how do you deal with the judgment online? I mean, you've got such a big community, right? I feel like the more, like, the bigger your community, the more the trolls will find you. So are we blocking and deleting, or what are we doing?
I used to be a block and deleter. I used to sort of just be like, out of sight, out of mind. But you know what? People always find a way. Like, if people really want to get to you, they will. And I'm just sort of like, okay, look, depending on the day that you get me, what point I'm in my cycle, what I got else going on in my life, like, sometimes someone will say the most horrible, heinous thing, and I'm just like, okay. Other times, like, completely gutted. It could just be something tiny, or I've misinterpreted, or I'm just like not having a good day myself, or I've got other things going on. It's hard. I've done this nearly 8 years, like, as a full-time job. I have come up against just your average troll comment. I've you know, people, they're never going to always like you. They're never always
Yeah.
going to agree with you. That's totally fine. I'm not for everybody. I don't necessarily agree or understand people that hate follow. So like the people that are sort of like probably watching your stuff the most and the hardest and sort of, you know, making sure that they find ways and means, whether it be on anonymous forums or whether it be, going on an article of mine that got republished or going on group pages and all this kind of stuff. I'd like to say like, oh, you get used to it and you grow a thick skin. I don't actually think that you do.
Yeah.
My most efficient way of dealing with it is like just not seeking it out,
Yeah.
avoiding the places where I could potentially find it, setting up boundaries. There's a lot of great tools on Instagram now for like keyword blocking or,
Okay.
I guess kind of like maybe trying to like filter people out.
Yeah.
But then also understanding that like not everything, like not every negative comment or whatever is actually hate or trolling. Like
Yeah.
with the internet and just like writing a comment, so much can be lost. So much context can be lost.
Yeah.
And I think for a while there, like while learning and mitigating and understanding social media myself as it evolved, that's one thing for me that I kind of, I guess, learned is that like not everything actually has like ill intent, or perhaps like I sometimes need to review how I take something, whether that be someone just trying to open up a discourse with me, or knowing when to just like not respond to something, or just be like, that's on them, that's not on me, that's not a
Yeah.
reflection on me. But I don't always get it right.
Yeah.
And like I said, depending on the day, I don't know what the right answer is. Maybe I do just block and delete people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Depending, you
I
just
think,
kind of wade through it.
yeah, right. And I think, that's one of the things that just kind of comes with a bigger audience. You know that you're going to have differing opinions. And to your
Yeah.
point, I remember I actually spoke to a friend who has a bit of a community as well. And he was sort of saying, if it's not like a death threat and it's not like homophobic because he's a gay man, then
Yeah.
I'll often just keep it up because and I'll kind of disregard it, but just whatever, it can stay up there, So he's got his boundaries set, and I feel like probably similar to yourself. You're like, you kind of got your boundaries. Maybe you
Yeah.
pay attention, maybe you won't, but you kind of just like, yeah. I mean, I think it's just interesting, and I always like to ask the question because I'm like, how are people, dealing with that? Because it's a crazy world out there.
Oh, it definitely is. And,
Yeah.
I think I sort of got to a point, maybe a couple of years ago where I, in the same way that like I engage with social media and that like
Yeah.
there are people that I don't like and there are
Yeah.
people that like their content is not for me.
Yeah.
I personally then just like don't follow them, don't follow what they do.
Yeah.
Like I have,
Yeah.
and so it is a bit of a foreign concept to me that there sort of are people that I guess like they don't like you, but they're super invested and they're constantly telling you what you should and shouldn't do. And so, to some degree, like, of course, if I say something and it's incorrect or perhaps it has like it's potentially harmful and I wasn't aware, like I want to be aware of that. Like, and I'm
Yes.
here to learn and grow. What really sucks though is that a lot of people don't allow you the space to do that. Where,
Yes.
yes, of course, there are people out there who do have bad intentions and they don't care, or, the things that they do and say are like extremely hurtful.
Yeah.
I'm not out here in like, I don't want to offend anyone or upset anyone. And I'm
Yeah.
more than happy in the right way, like to have that discourse or like someone bring
Yeah.
that to my attention.
Yeah.
I think as well, like I look at what other people do and also myself, and I say to myself, well, does it make them happy? And also, is it hurting anyone?
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, like if it makes them happy, but they're hurting people, not great.
Yeah.
But I feel like if at bare minimum, like that is the threshold,
Yeah.
like they're so like, why would I care so much what someone else was doing, or
Yeah.
how? And that's why I kind of don't understand like some of the things people do hate and troll me over. But each to their own.
Totally. And that's the attitude you kind of got to have. Like, it's like, well, okay, you do you, mate, you know.
Yeah.
Liv, I absolutely loved chatting with you. Thank you so much for your insights. I think this is such an interesting time, like particularly with the
Yeah.
tweens and all of that. And I look forward to perhaps in the future, maybe you can give us an update on the teenage years when that
Sure.
sort
If
of
If I've
comes about.
survived them.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about how they can find out more about you?
Yeah, sure. I am just Olivia White on Instagram, Olivia Laura White on TikTok. I also have my blog, which is houseofwhite.com.au. But yeah, mostly just hanging out on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, amazing. I'll pop those details in the show notes. Thank you so much again, Liv.
That's okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, girl.